Imagine walking into a room where everyone is speaking a language you do not understand. You are not angry, and you certainly do not hate the people there, but you feel completely invisible. This is exactly how your students feel when they first encounter your complex subject matter. The silence in your classroom is rarely a sign of peace. It is often the quiet sound of cognitive disconnection. We mistake their lack of engagement for a lack of intelligence or interest. In reality, they are simply waiting for a genuine reason to care about the lesson today. Resistance is not a character flaw in a student. It is a defensive mechanism against perceived irrelevance. When a brain cannot find a hook to hang new information on, it naturally discards that information to save energy. We are fighting a biological battle for their limited attention. The gap between your expertise and their ignorance is not bridged by better explanations. It is bridged by establishing value. Before they will listen to how something works, they must deeply understand why it matters to their world. Without that foundation, every single word you speak falls. Every student enters your classroom asking one silent, subconscious question. What is in this for me? If you do not answer that question in the first 5 minutes, you have already lost the most critical battle of the hour. Relevance is the light that guides their focus. We often throw information at students who are already struggling to stay afloat in a sea of abstractions. They do not need more facts. They need a lifeline that connects the classroom to the reality they live in every day. Context is that essential life ring for learners. The difference between a student who masters a concept and one who ignores it is often just a matter of perspective. One sees a chore to be completed for a grade. The other sees a tool they can use to solve a problem they actually care about today. Following the curriculum is your job, but making the curriculum come alive is your craft. If the material feels like a heavy burden rather than a key to a locked door, you are just moving boxes. We must transform these abstract concepts into practical, high-value tools for life. Here is the first principle of the relevance-first framework. Context must always precede content. You must show the problem before you offer the solution. If you explain a solution to a problem the student does not have, they will view your teaching as noise rather than helpful signal. Start with the familiar. Find an object or a situation they encounter every single day and reveal the hidden complexity behind it. When you show them that your subject is already part of their world, the barrier between school and real life begins to dissolve immediately and permanently. Create a controlled moment of frustration. Give them a task that is impossible to complete without the specific knowledge you are about to provide. When they feel the genuine need for a tool, they will value the tool much more than if it was just handed to them. The weight of a real-world problem always outweighs the weight of a textbook definition. Students are naturally programmed to solve puzzles and overcome obstacles. By framing your lesson as a mystery to be solved rather than a list to be memorized, you tap into their innate human curiosity. Think like a movie director. You wouldn't start a film with a 30-minute lecture on the physics of the stunts. You start with an explosion or a chase. In your classroom, the explosion is the provocative question or the startling statistic that makes them sit up and listen. Students are bombarded with information from every direction. Their brains have become experts at filtering out anything that does not seem immediately useful for survival or social status. To get past their defensive shields, you must demonstrate how your subject enhances their ability to navigate the world. Education is ultimately about expansion. Show them who they can become once they possess this knowledge. Relevance isn't just about what they can do, it is about how they will see the world differently. This internal transformation is the most compelling reason for any student to lean in. Let us compare the two methods.
The traditional method starts with a definition, moves to examples, and ends with a practice test. The relevance-first method starts with a challenge, moves to a discovery, and ends with the formal definition as a way to label what they already understand. The traditional way feels like a broken circle. It leaves the student wondering where this information fits into their life. When you lead with relevance, you provide the missing piece of the puzzle first. This creates a sense of completion and satisfaction that fuels further learning and long-term retention. When students say they hate a subject, they usually mean they hate the feeling of being incompetent or bored. Nobody hates understanding things that make them feel smart. By establishing relevance, you remove the boredom and replace it with a sense of purpose that transforms their entire classroom experience. Connect your subject to the things they already value. If you are teaching math, connect it to money or gaming. If you are teaching history, connect it to power and social influence. If you are teaching science, connect it to health and technology. These are the universal human drivers. Stop answering because it is on the exam. That is the weakest possible answer, and it actively kills curiosity. Instead, answer with a story. Tell them about the person whose life was saved, or the company that was built because someone mastered the very concept they are learning. Use the power of narrative. Human beings are hardwired to pay attention to stories. Even the most abstract mathematical formula can be presented as a character in a drama. When there are stakes and consequences involved, the brain naturally switches from passive recording to active, engaged processing. When a student sees the utility of a lesson, their curiosity is sparked. When curiosity is sparked, they put in the effort required for mastery. This is the virtuous cycle of relevance. It turns the grind of studying into a rewarding pursuit of skill and personal capability. Help them see the future. Most students live entirely in the present moment. Your job is to be the telescope that shows them how the skills they are building today will become the foundation for the life they want to lead tomorrow. Relevance is a bridge through time. Show the cost of ignorance. What happens when someone doesn't know this? Show the bridge that collapses, the bank account that empties, or the social misunderstanding that ruins a reputation. Sometimes the fear of a negative outcome is just as motivating as the hope for a positive one. Position yourself as a provider of secrets. You aren't just a teacher. You are the keeper of the keys to how the world actually functions. When students feel like they are being let in on a secret, their engagement levels skyrocket. Everyone wants to be on the inside. Demonstrate the interconnectedness of all things. No subject exists in a vacuum. Show how biology affects economics, or how literature explains psychology. When students see the hidden threads connecting your classroom to every other part of their lives,
the world becomes a much more interesting place. Relevance is the cement that holds the bricks of knowledge together. Without it, facts are just loose stones that eventually tumble down. A student might memorize a date for a test, but they will remember the reason for a revolution for the rest of their entire life. Value their time. Students are hyper-aware of when their time is being wasted on busy work. When you lead with relevance, you are making a promise that the next 40 minutes will be a valuable investment in their own personal development. Respect their time, and they'll respect you. Transform the classroom from a place of judgment to a place of empowerment. When the focus is on relevance, the goal isn't just to avoid a bad grade, it is to gain a new capability. This shift in focus reduces anxiety and allows for much deeper, more creative thinking. Give them a sense of purpose. Even the most difficult tasks become manageable when we know they lead somewhere meaningful. By creating relevance, you are providing the compass that helps your students navigate the challenges of your subject with confidence and a clear sense of ultimate direction. The aha moment is not a random event. It is the result of a connection finally being made. When you prioritize relevance, you are essentially setting the stage for these moments to happen more frequently. You are building the internal machinery of understanding within every single one of your students. "I don't get it" is often code for "I don't see why I should care." When you change the why, the how usually takes care of itself. Once a student is convinced of the value, they will often find their own way through the technical difficulties of the lesson. Relevance provides the perspective necessary to see over the obstacles. From the valley of boredom, the subject looks impossible and pointless. From the peak of relevance, the subject looks like a vast landscape of opportunity waiting to be explored. You are the guide to that higher ground. Deep learning requires deep roots. If the knowledge is only on the surface, it will wither as soon as the exam is over. Relevance is what allows information to take root in the student's long-term memory and become a permanent part of their cognitive toolkit for life. We are not just teaching subjects, we are teaching people. The ultimate goal of relevance is to help the student see themselves differently, as someone who is capable, informed, and ready to engage with the world's most complex problems. This is the true power of educational transformation today. So, before you open the textbook, before you write the first equation, and before you define the first term, ask yourself, how does this matter to them right now? Solve that problem first, and the rest of your teaching will become 10 times more effective and rewarding. You have the power to change the narrative in your classroom starting tomorrow. Stop being a conveyor belt for facts and start being a curator of meaning. When you lead with relevance, you don't just teach a subject, you ignite a lifelong passion for learning and discovery in others. If this perspective shifted the way you think about your next lesson, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below with the one subject you find hardest to make relevant. Let's brainstorm some relevance-first hooks together right now. Your students are waiting for this change. The journey toward a more engaged classroom begins with a single shift in your approach. It won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Take that first step today and watch as the hate for your subject vanishes. replaced by a genuine, lasting curiosity. For more strategies on how to transform your teaching and master the art of digital education, make sure to follow this channel. We are building a community of educators who refuse to settle for generic advice. Let's create the future of learning together. See you in the next.